Hi everyone, I'm Daniel. Superfeng99 is with me, as always, for our last scenario of the Path to Carcosa, and it's called Dim Carcosa. This is going to be really fun. There's a lot to talk about because there's a lot of different versions of how things can go. I almost want to talk about them all in 3 separate videos, but we're going to try it all right here in one video. How you doing,
Yep,
Superfeng?
we pretty good. We better get started. There is, as you said, a lot to talk about.
All right, let's do it. Well, the first thing to look at is I don't understand. These locations are all revealed.
Luke loves this.
We've got a special rule here where all the locations are revealed to begin with, and then there's something on the other side that we will talk about later. So
Yeah.
let's go through the setup.
Yeah. So, depending on whether you went above or below, you will start either at the top here, the Dark Spires if you went above, or the Shores of Holly if you spawn below. But the main difference is we now check doubt and conviction. So, the culmination of your doubt and conviction totaled has now come to pass. So, there are 3 versions of the scenario, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The first version, if you have 5 or less, total doubt and conviction. And there are a few ways to do this, aka it kind of involves failing a couple scenarios, basically, I think.
Yeah, you have to fail, I think, the Echoes of the Past for sure.
Yeah. And you have to like make sure to not you have to flee the dinner party, for example. I think probably not failing the pallid mask helps as well because
Yes.
that gives you like 2 either way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is version 1.
It's the hardest
If
one
you
to find,
have
so that's
indeed, I don't think I've actually ever played it.
I've done it once by accident.
Nice. If you have 6 or more total doubts than conviction, and you have more conviction, sorry, if you have more doubts, let's start with that one. You will use version 2. However, if you have 6 or more and you have more conviction, you will use version 3. And if there's a tie and you have 6 or more, you get to choose between version 2 or version 3. I don't know if that's ever happened to me. I know maybe it has. Has this happened to you?
Yep, happened my first time I played this one.
Nice. Excellent. All right. Also, you will finally be tested on how many marks of chasing the stranger you got. So, if you got 9 or more marks, you were able to kill the man in the pallid mask or investigate his location 9 times or more. You're good. Otherwise, you will get doom on the first agenda. Um, it's all right.
Yeah, there's enough time I think in this one that it's okay to only have like 3 to 5, but it's really
Yeah,
nice to have 6 to 8.
it is very nice to have 6 8. And finally, the extremely weird reason that of the scenario, or I should say gimmick, whatever, um, is the second to last bullet point. I'm just gonna read it. So each investigator takes direct horror equal to half their sanity, rounded down, cannot be prevented. This horror cannot cause you to become defeated because you cannot die via horror in this scenario.
Yay!
Yay! Calvin loves this.
I will tell you all about my Calvin experience when we get through the
I'm ready.
scenario. It's fun.
I am ready. Yeah, and so basically, if you would be defeated when you have horror on them equal to the greater the sanity, you are not. However, your remaining sanity is considered to be 0, and there are a couple of counter cards in this scenario that matter for whether or not you have 0 remaining sanity, perhaps twice as much horror on you than your total sanity, for example.
Hmm.
Um, so it's not like it's not nothing.
It is
Don't
not
get too
nothing.
much horror on you.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah,
And the tokens as well. I think the skull token becomes a -4 instead of -2.
correct.
Yep. So the horror here is really spooky, and there's a lot of ways to get it. And we'll see in a little bit there's ways to heal it too.
Yep.
All right, how do you want to
All right.
tackle this? So I guess the first act is the same always, right?
Correct. You just need 2 per clues.
Okay. So you start in a location that has 2 per clue. So
Yep.
you can just clear off the location, either Dark Spires or the Shores of Holly.
Yes.
Eh,
Importantly, once you get the clues, you also have to immediately spend them.
You must.
You must. So I don't need to talk about these. So when you advance, you spawn the man at the pallid mask because he was set aside. I should probably have said that.
Hmm.
Um, Where is he? Oh, sorry, it's in someone's deck. You spawn him in the Palace of the King, and then we get to the real difference.
So this is the version 1 where you didn't have very much doubt or conviction, and the way to get rid of him is you just spend 3 actions.
Correct. And specifically, the lead investigator must do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
The other one.
This is the doubt run.
This is the doubt run. Again, you can't get clues at this point, even though they're sitting all around. You have to do his investigation.
Yes.
And then
conviction.
Damage. So this really is kind of neat because they sort of correlate with the version of, spoiler alert, Haster that you get. The doubt version is one where you have to get lots of clues. The conviction one is the one where you need to, or can at least, deal damage to him.
Yep.
And then the version 1 is a little bit of a mix of the two, but...
Yes.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
Well, let's start with the ones that are fairly typical. Yep. Let's start with doubt.
Let's start with doubt.
Okay, so you flip this over and we get some cool art.
Yes. So we grab Haster, the King in Yellow, and put him next to the Act deck. He is in play, but not at any location, and we remove the Paladin Mask from the game. And like before, well, I mean, like always, actually, we have to defeat Haster.
Yes.
And we now have a new triggered ability on the Act. If there are no clues in your location, you remove everyone's clues from the game, and you flip the location over and resolve its text. That is very important. In fact, you will need to absolutely do that to deal with this one.
We will check that out in a second. Let's take a look at this Haster. So indeed, you cannot damage him except for by story card effects, which are on the other side of all the locations.
Yep.
4 fight, though, which you say, well, wait a minute. Why does he have 4 fight? 7 per player health, 2 agility, or 2 evade, and you might say, wait a minute, why does he have 2 evade? And I don't know the answer to that.
I actually don't know either, yeah.
All right, at the beginning of the enemy phase, if Haster is ready, and we can say Haster here because this is the doubt run.
Correct.
I mean, technically it could be either, but anyway, Haster attacks each investigator in player order, regardless of where they are. If Haster's attack deals you horror in excess of your sanity, you take 1 damage as well. And he does 2 horror and then maybe a damage too. So the damage is what kills you in this scenario because the horror never can, but this is how the damage starts to pop up among some other cards we'll see later. Now, you can avoid this by taking an action to do the triggered ability here, test Willpower X, which is going to be 4 minimum. If you succeed, well, not 4 minimum, I suppose, but 4 because that's his fight value at this point. If you succeed, exhaust Haster. Anyone can do it. This is really tough in low player counts.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's basically like it's a single action tax, and that gets worse and worse the less players you have.
Mm-hmm. And you need to bring someone who can pass a 4 willpower test every round.
And 4 minimum, because it does get worse.
It's going to get worse. So this is not easy. Actually, this was the first one I played. I played this in 3-player, and it wasn't a problem because I had Daisy with higher education, and I was like, well, I'll take my 1 action to pass a test.
Yep.
No big deal. But every time that I've played since then on like 2-player, it's been brutal. Even when I bring like a Mystic, it's like it's sucking the resources out of your hand.
It's also bad because it is not an evade, so it would incur attacks of opportunity.
That is correct. If you are engaged with other enemies, this is something you might just say, I'm not doing it this round. And then you take the 2 horror and you say, well, I'll get it next time. And then it starts to add up.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Okay. Version 3.
Yes. Lord of Carcosa.
Different cool art.
Yeah. So, this one. I'm sorry, I should mention. It actually spawns somewhere.
Yes.
So it would spawn at the Palace of the King, basically.
Okay, so kind of where you were.
Yeah.
Why don't you run us through this one?
Yeah, so 3 fights, 9 per investigator health, 3 evade, Ancient One Elite. It does have prey, so it's going to hunt someone who has the most remaining sanity. It is Hunter and Massive. It has the same kind of text as Haster. If its attack deals you horror in excess of your sanity, you take a damage as well. And this is the really also the bad part about this. While Haster is being attacked or evaded by an investigator with no remaining sanity, treat each Elder Sign +1, 0, or -1 token that investigator reveals as an autofail token. Yeah, that's bad.
What happens if you catastrophe this?
Okay, well, time to get a catastrophe out here.
Sorry. I think it still is an auto fail, right? But
Play when you cancel that token. Treat it as an Elder Sign token instead. Treat it as a treat each. So in if we were thinking about Magic the Gathering, we'd have to determine what layer this would affect the thing.
no.
But I imagine that this would make it an auto fail.
Yeah, so it's like a constant effect, I guess. So
Yeah, probably.
yep. Just a thought that
Anyway.
popped in my mind. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, that's bad. Luckily, he doesn't have retaliate or alert, so you won't take an attack back. But missing a big attack because you drew an Elder Sign could be very bad.
Mm-hmm. So this one, you just don't lose your sanity.
Yep.
And evade this guy and run away, or evade an attack or something. Like I feel like this one is manageable just because he has Hunter, but you can evade him.
Exactly.
If you didn't bring anyone to evade, this is kind of hard.
Yeah, you just run, and then hopefully the other locations allow you to exhaust him. For example.
That's true. So you can run away because he's massive. You're right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of like the other one then, because you're taking your 2 horror. You're just not wasting an action to try to. Well, I guess you run away twice. You move 2 locations away.
Right. I mean, and also, the locations themselves can cause it to disengage and exhaust.
Yes. Yeah. We'll look at those in a second too.
Yeah.
At least this guy you can just take out with your weapons or whatever, because
Yep.
you can deal normal damage to him. He does have 9 per, which is tougher, but if you need to finish him off in a round, you don't need to run around trying to find the story cards that deal damage.
Yep. And ultimately, remember that, yes, you still have the story cards that could deal damage. So both your clue getters can contribute towards the damage by revealing those story cards, and the fighters. So 9 per health doesn't sound, or doesn't, in reality, isn't as big as we think.
That's correct, because you can have 1 or more investigators babysit him while everyone else goes around and gets clues.
Yes.
Yep. Last version.
Yeah, you get a story asset.
Ah!
So yeah, this mask attaches itself to your face. And you get -2 sanity while it's attached, and also it cannot leave place, so it's permanently attached.
Mm-hmm.
And that -2 sanity is hilarious also. That could be bad.
It could be, because we get another version.
A tattered king. This guy is insane. What happened?
This time he does 4 horror, and the same business about excess of sanity. He's easier to evade, though. Only 2 evade.
Yes. He's also not massive.
Not massive, right. The business about the no remaining sanity turning things into autofails, though, remains. So not quite as much health as the Lord of Carcosa, right?
Yeah.
But you better evade him, otherwise, ouch.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And also, of course, you were like, oh yeah, we'll just evade him, and you draw 0, and you're like, well, we're fucked.
You just can't have any remaining. You can't have well, I mean, you have the Pallid Mask, though. This is
Yeah, it makes it even worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, basically, if you have if you have at least, what is it? I think if you have at least, at most, 6 sanity, this will put you into no remaining sanity. Is that correct? No, 5.
So
I can't do the math.
Depends on how much trauma you had, I guess.
Right, but also you start with at minimum
That's
half
true.
your sanity remaining.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Run it down. Okay. Anyway, it's still bad. It's really bad.
It's bad. It's scary. But
oh man, having 3 sanity with this on you. Oh god.
Well, this one is not for. Well, yeah. Anyway, it's rough, but
it's rough.
I don't think it's the hardest one. I think that this one is harder.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, they're each hard in different ways, I think, which is cool. I don't know if I agree with the whole this one is harder, but maybe we'll see.
I think it's just the player count thing. I haven't lost this one on the doubt run on 3+,
Yeah,
but on 2, it is very difficult because you are
fair
losing
enough.
much more of your turn. All right, the locations then, I suppose.
Yes. So not every location. Sorry, these two locations. There are two different versions of them, and these two locations there are three different versions of them.
Mm-hmm.
They are randomly chosen and put into play. And notably, the fronts are all the same, but their backsides are different. What do you want to start with?
Well, let's check out. Let's say we start at the shores of Holly,
Sure.
and then we have to go back here, right? Because you can't flip it unless you have this act in play.
Correct. So yeah, you would have to have at least gone here, and then you would have to go like, okay, we're gonna go back.
Okay, so we go back here, we get all the clues, and then
So in this one, we deal 1 per damage to Hester, exhaust him, and disengage him from all investigators, and we just flip it back. Very
yay!
simple. Yay! So yeah, this is basically the vanilla, like the minimum that you want to see from the backsides of these. To deal 1 per damage, exhaust him, disengage him. You're like, okay, I'm good with that. That's good.
So there's only one of these. So now let's go to one where there's multiple. So Bleak Plains, oh, by the way, cannot play ally assets, is
Okay.
just have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not bad.
So
Deal
this one,
2 per.
super, very nice.
Now, this one says flip this card back over. It can't be flipped over again. And then you're just
Correct.
sort of set with this one. However, if you had had the other one in play, this one says each investigator heals 3 horror, deal 4 damage to an enemy in play other than Haster. And then you remove this and replace it with this one, adding the clues.
Correct. Yep. That 4 damage is actually pretty good. Everything has 4 health or less, I believe.
Other than the Beast of Aldebaran.
Oh, of course, yes. I forgot about that.
But that can be very clutch to put 4 damage on the monster.
Yeah. It is, unfortunately, if it's you're like, oh, there's no enemies out. God damn it. Healing 3 horror is still very good as well.
It's nice.
Yep.
Unless your name is Calvin.
Oh yeah, it's not a May ability.
All right. Let's move up to these guys. So there's 3 of
All
these.
Right.
This one is another heals 3 horror.
Pretty good.
And then you get a new location. Get some more clues. Test 2 combat. That doesn't happen very often.
No.
Cool.
Just exhausted. Okay. All right.
Yep. Of course, you have to be the one to take the... Okay, yeah, this is a good one too.
Yeah.
This one may have... I think this one maybe killed Daisy when I played this on the channel.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
With a book test? Daisy died to a book test?
Yeah, she had her Necronomicon out, as well as a Nihilism.
Oh no!
And it was returned too, so you know what card was also there.
Oh, the baby.
Yeah, the baby. And you might say, well, how do you die from having all that horror? We'll get to that.
But yeah, regardless of whether or not you succeed, so you're still going to get it. You will deal 1 per damage. So that's good.
Yep.
I will, yeah, so this is a little bit of just the weird part about this. You basically have to declare who is flipping it over.
That's correct.
Because even though it's a free triggered ability, it's like you have to be like, you're doing this in case it requires a test.
That's right. It also matters for something else. Okay, this also, by the way, the effect on these have always been lose an action after you discover the last remaining clue, so you still could do the triggered ability. You're not ending your turn.
Wait. Oops, I put the wrong one out.
Oh, this is supposed to be the damage one, right?
Yeah. My bad. Sorry. What's this? Okay, sorry. Yeah. Here's more dim streets.
Yes. Okay, so none of these do damage? They all heal horror?
I think so, yes. Yep.
One of them has to say that it doesn't, you can't flip it over again. Oh yeah, this one. So it does this does do damage.
Yeah, no, I gave you a copy of Dim Streets.
Oh, okay.
My bad. But this one, yeah, just does 1 per and it's done.
Okay.
Anyway, this also has the text though. After you discover the last clue, you take a damage.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. These are the ones that say lose an action.
Yes. And this one is a willpower test. And for each one you succeed by, you heal a horror.
Yeah, this is what happened to me and Calvin.
You didn't want to succeed. Oh no.
I didn't, and his willpower was sky high because of
Oh
all the horror.
no.
So he succeeded by something crazy, like 8, I think.
Oh god.
And
Everyone else is like, yay! You're like, no.
so I had to. This happened twice. It was on this card and then somewhere else where I healed 5. And I had to build up all the horror all over again. It was so funny. I thought that Calvin goes into God mode in this scenario. This was doubt run, so I couldn't do the just say Haster.
Yeah.
But it was actually less. I mean, it was still very good, but it was less like automatic than I thought. There was the game was trying to make me heal horror all the time.
It's trying to save you.
But this test was hilarious. I was like, I'm just gonna. It's okay. I'll fail this, or not fail, but I'll only succeed by 1 or 2, and I succeed by 8. Ugh.
All right, and then so the other one was this Dim Streets. So the one where you make a fist test.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the last one is the intellect test.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I remember this is the one that was on this side.
Yeah, so those ones have tests basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's
cool.
the theme of this one.
I like it. Those are cool.
Yeah, those are cool.
The Depths of Demhi. Remember, you cannot play fast cards here, and it is. You have to remember that because you always want to like draw your, play your water protection or.
Yeah, that's a fast card. Yeah.
Yeah, your mind never matter because this guy is there. You want to evade him.
Deny existence.
Deny existence. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Can't do it. There's 2 of these.
Correct. More horror healing.
Yeah, that was the other one that healed 5 horror then.
Amazing.
That's a good one.
Good one. Just plain old good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, strangely, right, depending on what you end up getting here, you might not ever get like those other benefits. You might just flip over the one that says you can't flip this over again.
Yep.
Last one.
This is my favorite.
This is good. The story here is awesome. You're like, should I push her over?
And everyone else is like, please push her. Please.
Exactly. Like, why would you ever do the first one? You're not willing to take the 2 horror?
I guess so. Maybe it would kill you.
Maybe
because then you could just have someone else do it, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Because you can't do it, so someone else comes up and they take the 2 horror. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Lastly, I guess we should probably talk about the agendas as well.
Yeah.
So the first agenda says that Haster cannot be defeated. Hey, that's how we have to win the game, though.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is the text: if there is at least 3 per damage on Haster, we immediately advance. So it's kind of catching up with you. That's good because otherwise you'd it would have the Black Stars Rise effect, basically.
Right. So this is the make sure that you don't just like dump a bunch of damage and you're done. Right.
Right.
Because the next, let's see what's on the other side of this agenda. I don't actually remember. Oh yeah. So we get a couple of like weird flashbacks because remember it's all really weird. Is it all in your mind or what?
Yep.
And so you're back in the asylum.
Yeah.
And just like the asylum, you have to take one of these tests at on an agenda flip, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good thing. I didn't realize that. That's kind of parallel to it. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's an act flip. I forget. But either way.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Second one, Haster gets +1 fight, so he is now harder to hit and harder to willpower evade.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty bad. And now if there's at least 5 per damage on Haster, we advance. Of course, this can normally advance as well via Doom. But
yes.
Hey, it's back to the party.
Yep. And Diane Divine she's the Beast of Aldebaran.
All along.
Mm-hmm.
So the Beast of Aldebaran would spawn at the Palace of the King. Also, we get an encounter deck shuffle.
Cool.
Interesting.
And
finally,
+2 fight.
+2 fight. Oh god. And Haster cannot be defeated unless an investigator knows the secret. How do we get to know the secrets?
Well, maybe we should go to the Palace of the King.
Yeah, it cannot be flipped over unless Haster has 5 per damage on him. By the way, this guy's here, so you have to deal with that.
Yep.
Let's flip it. You know the secrets.
Hey, there's Act 2 again.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right.
And then you can kill him.
Yay.
That's it. That's a scenario.
That's the scenario. Remember that you know the secret. Yeah, see, importantly, right? This one says, unless an investigator knows the secret, other than you know the secret.
Hmm.
So they were, maybe it's even intentional in Black Stars Rise.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Anyway, that's all the locations.
Yep, pretty. I mean, I like the setup. Lets you run around a little bit if you have to. The fact that the Palace of the King can only be entered from these two locations is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, locations are good. Like the variety of like what comes out when is neat. There's some interesting text on here about what you can and cannot do, or what happens when you get the clues, which forces you to make some choices as well.
Yep. I will note, just real quick, more than normal, Janae Beauregard is absolutely disgusting in this scenario. One, because you don't have to discover the clues to trigger the triggered ability, because it just matters on if there are clues on the location.
Oh no.
And it gets around the force effects on after you discover the last remaining clue.
So you can just shove all the clues onto the places you've already gone to.
Correct. It's kind of stupid.
Janae.
Janae secretly is from Carcosa. It seems.
She was in Dunwich, but she's not in this campaign.
Correct. That is correct.
So we have a bunch of encounter cards to talk about. Some new ones. So
Yeah.
obviously the creature of Demhe is in the depths of Demhe.
Yes.
Massive. Speaking of connecting
location-
or flipping locations over,
Yeah. He just attacks them. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Or I mean,
so
location. But
if
still.
he's here and he can't move unless you do something stupid like play Janae Beauregard.
True.
But yeah, if he's here, I mean, you can move him other ways, but
Yeah.
then you can't flip this, or this, which is most of the
Without him
locations.
attacking you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Speaking of flipping locations,
Yeah. Winged One spawns in the bleak plains. It will move towards a location once the location has been flipped.
any location.
Any location. 3 damage.
3 damage, 1
Jesus.
horror. That's crazy.
Retaliate. I mean,
You have to be very careful if
still.
you're gonna try to kill this guy.
yeah, this guy can just kill you.
So there's only one of them and one of the creature of Demhe. What do you think of these two enemies?
I think they're cool. They mean that you don't have free reign over the scenario because you can just go around flipping them willy-nilly. Obviously, there are still limits to that. For example, the dim streets and the ruins of Carcosa having the after you discover the last clue. So they kind of like, you have to plan around that. But these ones add another layer of like, oh, we have to watch out when we're flipping stuff and having the things move to them, or to deal with them before we do this stuff, etc. I think they're an interesting inclusion. They're just a little hard to keep track of, a little bit, I think.
Yeah, because you leave them somewhere and you have to do their force effect.
Yeah.
I agree. The damage, of course, is also kind of key here. Again, like you don't die of horror, but you do die of damage.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of damage, 3 copies of Dismal Curse.
Yep.
3 willpower. If you have no remaining sanity, which is maybe sometimes, but try to avoid that. If you fail, take 2 damage or 4 damage instead if you have horror on you greater than twice your sanity. I mean, that's just like the finishing blow, right?
Yeah, 5 willpower test that deals you 4 damage that you're probably going to fail is, you're probably dead.
Yeah, I don't think this is... I mean, it's a scary card because it can kill you, but it's usually because something else has gone wrong, I think.
Yep. Agreed.
Or you've drawn too many of these.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them. Okay, this one, though, is the one that I find to be brutal.
Yeah. This is corrosion, but X is horror on you, correct?
Mm-hmm. And it's not items, it's anything.
Anything, correct, yes. Yeah.
So when I first played this scenario, I was playing with someone who was playing Ashcan Pete. And the first
Goodbye, Duke.
The first encounter card he drew was this one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the problem. You start with, some amount of horror on you, like probably, I don't know, 3 or 4, right? And then you lose a lot. And if you draw this later, you have even more.
Yep.
This one is the one I took 2 copies of A Test of Will in addition to my Ward of Protections in Calvin. because
Specifically for this.
yeah, I mean, look, if I had 10 horror on me,
Oh God. Yeah, that's everything.
right? So yeah, I just I generally run a lot more encounter deck cancellation than a lot of people, and this is a reason why.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, we have 3 more hidden cards
Yes.
alongside a few others that we'll see. So these all have the special text that they're in your hand, and then if you have horror twice on you, greater than twice your sanity, you're done. You're
You're
killed.
done. Yep. And it's not also notably, it's not your printed sanity. So any modifiers to your sanity are kept track here. For example, if you have a mask on you that gives you -2 sanity.
So I made the mistake in Daisy of playing St. Hubert's Key.
Oh God.
So I had -2
That does not
sanity.
help here.
Well, I mean, the stats help, but you can't
Yeah.
ever get rid of it because you're never going to be defeated by
Yep.
sanity.
Yep.
So that healing 2 horror business is nothing, and then suddenly you have less sanity.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay,
Oops.
there's 3 of them. They all have a different trigger to get rid of it. Deal 2 damage to an investigator.
Yes.
That it's fine.
It's fine, although it could be bad, but it's fine.
Yep. This one, spend 5 resources. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's weird because it doesn't, like, if it said action lose 5 resources,
Yeah.
that would be okay. But because you have to spend them, you have to have 5, and that's really tough.
It is. You're right. I think I would just hold on to this one and just never try not to take the horror, which I think is true of these two for sure.
Yeah.
This one is one action, you commit it.
Correct. And honestly, this one's also the funniest.
It is pretty fun.
Like, I'm going to investigate. Nope.
But it can be you. You can do it.
Exactly. That is also true.
You're right. But sometimes you just draw a counter card. You're like, I guess I'm going to fail this.
Yep.
Okay. How about this one?
Yeah, final act. No remaining sanity, 2 doom on the current agenda, and it can advance. Double ancient evils with surge, potentially. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so it always has surge, so it's like makes the encounter deck like 1 shorter, and there's only 1 of them, thankfully.
Yeah.
So if you draw it early, or you draw it and you don't have that trigger, you have remaining sanity, then it does nothing, and that's fine. But it's sneaking in the encounter deck, and you're like, uh-oh, is Calvin gonna draw it? I told you he's very good in this scenario, but there's a lot in here that makes him a little bit a bit of a. I mean, he's usually like walking a tightrope, but yeah. Okay. I think this card is cool in a final scenario.
Yes, I agree.
All right, let's do the other hidden cards while we're at it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 copies of Descent into Madness. We've seen this one before, but this time I think that it's a lot worse because you're going to have 3 horror on you.
For sure. I also just noticed that somehow I'm missing one of the wizards in your head, but I'll get that eventually.
Oh yeah, there's 4 of those. So yeah, whereas in Curtain Call, you eventually probably have the 3 horror on you. In Unspeakable Oath, I think this one's also in the other one, the
first scenario.
No, that's Curtain Call. The 3rd scenario.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Echoes of the Past.
Yep, that one's like kind of a strange one to have this in, but whatever.
Yep.
But in this one, yikes.
You're going to lose an action.
And it's surge.
Yeah, that's tough.
Okay, the 4 whispers in your head. I think these are actually worth talking about again. So the you cannot play events we thought was probably the hardest one, right?
The one that I thought was the hardest was the move more than once.
Okay, the move one is pretty bad too. The events one I think is as bad as it is anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
This one you cannot trigger. Trigger abilities. You cannot spend the clues, or you can't do the flipping location
can't do
flipping.
The thing. No flipping for you.
Yep.
Yep.
You just have to remember that because I think that's really easy to overlook. And hidden cards have the problem of like, well, if you have them in your hand and no one knows, then they can't check you on that. But
yep.
Also matters for things like, Pathfinder or whatever else. But okay. Cannot move more than once?
I mean, I think it's still bad.
It's still bad.
There's a lot of moving in this scenario.
Especially if you have the enemy versions of Haster that are in play. I think it's a
Yeah.
lot worse.
Yep.
And then cannot commit skill cards. Eh,
I think this is the same.
yeah.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Um, what's left? We've got these guys, just like in the last scenario, they start in the encounter deck and they're
They're
tough.
very annoying. Yeah, they're annoying.
More horror.
Yep.
And they are, this is a different encounter set, right?
Yeah, this one would come with the Beast of Alderaan.
Right. Okay, so we got the King's Edict. So there are cultists in this one, but it's the fanatic cultists.
Yeah. Fanatics, hey, they're helping you a little bit.
They actually do. So it's really strange that they take the clues. They don't get doom like they did in the other scenario, previous scenario that they were in Echoes of the Past. You don't actually need their clues for anything really, but
Yep. They just need to be not at the location.
so what usually happens is like I start down here, I clear these clues out, and then they all spawn there
Yeah.
or
Or
here.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not a big deal. They're easy to kill.
Yep.
Agent of the King, I guess he's fine too.
Yeah.
Then the King's Edict, it just can make it tougher, but most of the time I think because they spawn far away from you, you just don't deal with them that round.
Yep. And once again, they help you because they just get the clues off themselves.
Yep. Well, yeah, let's do these first.
Agents of faster.
Screeching Byaki.
So that it's gonna have +1 fight, +1 evade, basically.
Yep. At least you get rid of them from the game once you defeat them.
Yes, that is huge. That is huge.
This one's tough.
Yeah, you're gonna draw the madness, which, by the way, Lost Soul deals damage, which could kill you in this scenario because there's a lot of damage, or that's the thing that's killing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty bad.
And there's two of them.
Yep.
And then I think these three are also really tough.
Yeah, Frozen in Fear, especially, obviously, like especially during a boss fight, Frozen in Fear could be like, oh god, he has spent 2 actions to fight this thing, and it need to move. I can only move once per. It's bad.
And also the willpower tests here are gonna, like, if you're trying to do the willpower evade, these are things that you just don't have the resources to deal with anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Rotting Remains are just gonna add more horror. Yeah. And then Dissonant Voices is here too. Just annoying. Last thing is we have the scenario reference card. We have 2 of the symbol tokens plus the skulls. 3 skulls.
Correct. You will always have 2 cultists.
You will always have the 2 cultists, which is reveal another token. If you fail, take 1 horror. I think this also did in Daisy because of the baby. We'll get to that later.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the tablets are -3. So both of those are -3.
Yeah.
So they're both kind of the same idea that you lose an action, kind of.
Yeah, kind of, like, and it's situational. Like the tablet is you place a clue in your location. That only matters if you haven't flipped your location over and you can flip it over.
That's right.
Like if you don't care, then like whatever. The third one, the elder thing, attack or evasion attempt, because that's also not when you fail. So
I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad. Especially if you're fighting Haster and you're like, I can evade him, and then you're like, oh god. All right.
Oh, that's rough.
Yep.
Dare we look at the other side?
Let's do it. Holy shit.
Well, I mean, sometimes the skull is easier, right? It could be -0.
That's true. That's true.
Cultist, if you fail, take 2 horror.
Okay, so the tablets and the other things are just -5s now. They're the same though.
And the same otherwise.
It's still really bad.
Okay. No, thank you.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
I think they're all pretty tough. Like, again, the no sanity remaining thing, as we've seen here, is like, oh, well, I'm not going to die. Well, but you might not make very much progress either.
You will die in other ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dooming out is possible too.
Yep.
Okay. Resolutions?
Yeah, you either do it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it.
Well, there's one more thing.
Yeah, the epilogue. So if you won, but if any investigator ended the scenario with a copy of the possession.
Mm-hmm.
They are recorded in your campaign log as let's see, what is it recorded as? Yeah, in your
You're
campaign log,
possessed.
record the names of each investigator who ended the game with at least one copy of the possession treachery in their hand, and each of those investigators wants to start the King in Yellow again.
I think that's cool. It's the
Yeah,
epilogues are fun.
yeah,
I mean, I don't think that keeps me from holding on to these possessions. Like I'm totally fine with holding on to these if I don't think I'm gonna die.
exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's in there for.
it's a nice flavor thing on continuing the cycle, as it were.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So any other things we missed here to talk about?
Oh God. Well, there was a lot, but I think that's everything. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
We
I
have
think
been
that's
pretty
everything.
thorough with these, so if we miss something, let us know. But otherwise, we're gonna give our overall thoughts on rankings or of ratings rather of the different criteria that we like to look at.
Yep.
Um, oh, okay. There's a different ending based on if you were doubt or conviction run. Okay.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I
The,
guess also that is something to note. When you beat the scenario, whether or not you were doubt or conviction, like the outcome is different. If you were a conviction, you're like, you have defeated Haster and he's sealed in Carcosa, yay. But if you finished with doubt, you're like, you wake up back in the theater and you're like, what just happened?
that's right.
So that's cool.
All of them do say curtains fall though, which is kind of funny.
That is true.
Oh, I guess this is the same card. Never mind.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Do you have a particular version that you've done more often?
I feel like I get like my first couple times were the doubt version, King in Yellow. Um, More often than not, I get Lord of Carcosa. I feel like doing conviction is like kind of more of a not easier, but it's like it's more straightforward to do conviction through the campaign, I guess.
When you do
Um,
the doubt version, do you feel like there's enough stuff for maybe this is a later conversation, but like is there enough stuff for the fighters to do?
that's a good question. I honestly think that the fighter's job, because I feel like there's already so much stuff going on. There's a lot of, I mean, there's not a lot, but there are enemies to deal with, and so having the fighters, you know, deal with those enemies is already something they need to deal with. I think that the fighter, if they're able to flex, or if they're the ones that's dedicated to evading Haster, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where their role lands. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
we'll talk more about that in a bit when we talk
Yep.
about the balance and whatnot. All right, we have replayability to talk about first, and I was just alluding to there being three different versions, and I think that is a goal. Like I like playing through this campaign in general, and I like playing through the whole way, like just doubt or just conviction to see how it kind of ends up. There's a little bit of mixing and matching that I think is worth doing as well. But as far as this scenario, I think each of those three ways, especially the main two, are quite different.
Yeah, I think I agree. The different scenarios are very, very different from each other, and the 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 locations that you get also vary the outcome of the scenario a lot. Um, whether or not you had to get all the clues off of dim streets one, two, or three times can really
Mm,
impact
that's true.
the scenario. Um, I also think that there's a lot to experience because it can be a fairly swingy scenario. Um, if you can like I have had scenarios where I have ended the scenario with zero horror on me. Um, but there are some times when you're like, I have no sanity remaining. I'm about to get more than double, so now I have to worry about the possessions and the final act and all of those other cards. Um, and so there's a lot of like it swings a lot and it makes the experience very varied, I think.
So do you think the swinginess is due to the the order of things happening or the different versions, or is it mostly like an investigator or team choice?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think a little bit has to do with randomness, just a little bit. Like getting the different locations can swing things because of the fact that some of the highest like healing horror abilities are on the backs of locations that you might not get. And so if you're unable to heal any horror via the locations, you're like, we are gonna die no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do agree that a lot of it can be controlled by the players and the team comp that they bring. Like if you have people with high sanity, like Mystics, for example, or even Seekers, if you bring Carolyn Fern, you will never die.
Mm-hmm.
She basically unlocks the entire scenario for you. Um, and so yeah, there's ways that the players can mitigate it, but I do agree it's kind of a mixture of both, I think.
I think even so, this is why I'm talking about it here. I think the replayability uh, is something I factor in when thinking about the team comps. Like, it's fun to play this one with different investigators because of the special rules and because of some of the other interesting things that happen in just the scenario regarding like evading or willpower evade, etc. So I think I rate this really highly because I'm going to actually give it like a 5. Um,
Mm.
because I think there's a lot of different ways that I've enjoyed playing it over and over again. I think it's still pretty hard. It's not an easy scenario, but um, I've enjoyed picking completely different investigators and seeing if what will happen, right? Like I've talked about Calvin a few times here. You mentioned Carolyn. I've not played her here before, but I went in thinking that Calvin was going to. I don't think he was going to trivialize it, but I was thinking he was going to be like in his element. He was very good, but I don't think he's the only investigator who can do really well. And there were definitely some pressure points where I had to think about, was this all worth it?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I think I don't personally view this scenario as being too replayable, mainly because you know what version, for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
of the scenario that you're gonna get when you go into the scenario, whether or not you have more or less doubt or conviction. Um, I agree that the investigator team comp can really vary what the scenario kind of deals with, and because it's such a strange scenario in that respect, I agree that it's wildly different, much more so than other investigator or other scenarios, I should say, um, to what the investigators are. Um, but I do think that if you know what version you're getting, it's honestly a little bit. You're kind of on rails a little bit. Um, now that it really opens up in the the actual half where you're defeating the boss, but like you're basically be like, okay, go around, get clues, open the thing, get clues, get the thing, get clues, get the thing. Um,
It is true. It is true that it's
yeah,
not like you have random map. Uh, you don't have like a random map like the Pallid Mask does that really
yeah,
leans itself to making different kinds of decisions.
yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah. So in that respect, I think this might actually be the largest difference
Oh,
that we've seen between us. I will give it a 3.5.
okay. But I think there's different ways to rate this.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I don't. I mean, I probably could be a coward and go down to 4.5 because I think you're probably right here. But I'm just focusing on the like. There feels like there's 3 scenarios here, and
Yeah,
I have played that other version where it's. I mean, it's not super different than um, the Lord of Carcosa one, but having
right.
the Pallid Mask with the -2 sanity is just kind of makes it interesting, and you're playing a little bit like your pants are on fire.
True enough.
Okay. Um, when it comes to the return to, which we'll get to later, I think it makes it even a little bit more different in a fun way.
Yep. Yep.
Um, hmm. So this one, I think we've been talking about these locations and how they really do matter, but there's no way to deal with the fact that the first thing you flip over might be um, the last one you flip over in that set. On the one hand, that's good because you don't have to get as many clues. On the other hand, it's bad because you don't get a chance to heal horror or maybe do something else that helps out the team.
Yeah, I do think that the randomness of the locations can be a bit unfortunate. Um, that being said, I think it's ultimately it's okay. It's not egregious. It can lead to some feel bads. And yeah, I think also there is a lot of randomness, more so than normal, on the encounter deck. Notably, a lot with those hidden cards that can really punish one person in particular out of other players. And I'm not even talking about balance here. I'm talking about like, you're the person that's going to draw the card that means you cannot move more than once, and
That's right.
therefore you're
Yeah.
going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I think it's fine. I don't think it's unfair, I guess I should say. And I do think that for a final scenario, it needs to apply this amount of pressure. The only thing I would say is that it sometimes feels like it applies too much pressure at the very beginning rather
Yes.
than leaving the pressure for later, if that makes any sense.
So I wondered about this a little bit when I think I last played it, or maybe it was on my channel, and I had the logical reasoning card in my hand,
Oh yeah.
and the card is like good, right? But
Yeah.
you have to be really careful with it because you keep losing your clues.
That is true.
So the minute you get, so you can do the level 4 version, you can do it with 3 clues, right?
Yeah.
So you can't get the 4th clue in 2-player because then all your clues go away because you must immediately spend them. So you have to
Right.
like get the clues and then wait, not get the last one, and then you play your logical reasoning to heal everyone's horror.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing that happens a little bit in this scenario where the pressure itself is, I mean, it's good, but it's hard to figure out like when it is you have a moment to set up. Do you do it at the beginning? If you're playing this for your first time, you're probably not going to. You're like, I'll just advance the act. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. All right. So as for the rating, I think I'm gonna also give it a 3.5. I think there is a little randomness going on, which is why it's that low. But yeah.
I'm not sure it's like so game ending though, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
3.5 sounds right to me.
All right.
Okay, the balance one I think is worth talking about here with the
Yeah.
doubt version and with the player count on that one. So
Yeah.
what's your, I mean, we talked about before, but like what's your assessment on making that a crucial part of the game?
So I think my opinion is actually very interesting because yes, if you have not very high willpower investigators and you're going the doubt run, you will basically lose. It's kind of a thing. Like if you're never going to be able to evade Pastor, assuming also you don't get other evades off of the locations, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, it's also kind of your fault for going doubt. It's not like the game forced you to go doubt, right? Um,
No,
so
but if you didn't know what was going to happen, right?
right, yes, for blind playthroughs, obviously, yes.
You have your solo Winifred run comes to a screeching halt.
Right. I mean, that is true. I wouldn't. Oh God, playing Winifred through this. Um. So, yeah, I see what you're getting at. I think that I think there's a certain aspect of it where you are technically experiencing the consequences of your own actions, but I agree that it is not just that willpower test. Like any investigator with low sanity will be very punished in this scenario specifically. Um and not even because of the cards that say, if you have no sanity remaining, do this. If you have double, do this. It's because of the fact that the tokens get worse when you have no sanity remaining. It leads to this kind of downward spiral where you get more and more and more, and then eventually you just die immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that specifically for the doubt version, also the fighters don't really feel like they contribute to the actual goal of the scenario, which is to defeat Haster. Um, and the fighters are kind of left doing their own thing, just protecting the cluevers from getting the clues, right? Um, so yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I enjoy the scenario quite a bit. The problem is that I basically always think about this when I'm building a team for the campaign. So I'm not going to just randomly go in with, Preston and Winifred or something and say,
Yeah.
let's do it. And so
So the question is, do you feel like you are locked in to playing a certain team comp? For example, like in Forgotten Age, where it almost feels like you're kind of locked into a style of play. Do you feel that way specifically for this last scenario?
That's the thing, is that for Forgotten Age, it's in the first scenario, and this one,
Exactly.
it's the end. And then, I mean, I
Right.
guess you can say, hey, you lost the last scenario. That's what's gonna happen sometimes. But yeah, I do feel like, I mean, look, it starts as a 4 willpower test.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like the other two versions, I think Haster's Fight is 3, so it's going to scale up from 4 to 5 to 6. And so I played Daisy and Tommy, and I tried to use Daisy to try to do the evade at least sometimes. Tommy with physical training 4 could do it sometimes, but even so, you're getting it like 5, commit some skills maybe, and you're
Yeah.
like, cool, I passed once, and then next time you got to do it again. With what, right? You
Yeah,
you
I
can
think
tank it. Like I think I
right.
used
You
teddy
either
bears every
tank it
round.
or you get the locations that exhaust him.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to. I think so. There's an interesting pressure there where you're like, okay, I can sometimes do this, and otherwise I need to get the clues off really quickly. And maybe that's like the play style that you have to learn how
Yeah.
to deal with the problem if you don't have the team comp who can just obviously evade. I mean, so I think that it should be probably 3 fights instead of 4, just to make it a little bit more reasonable at the beginning. Otherwise, the spiral starts earlier.
Yeah, I agree. And also it kind of has that issue where if you have an investigator that has a base 5 willpower that can also get it up higher, you will basically have no issues through the scenario, I feel.
Well,
For
it's
very
easier,
it is easier.
but it's still like the action tax is a thing, right? So
Right, but it's similar to the scenario where you get like, in Scarlet Keys, Dogs of War,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Where if you have one person who can evade the guy, you win the scenario, and that's it, right? I think it's not as bad as that scenario specifically, but it kind of feels a little bit on that way.
Well, but the player count to me is worse. I think that's I don't know how to fix that here, but I feel like
Yeah,
1 out of your 6 actions versus 1 out of your 9 or 12 is way different.
yeah, for sure.
And that one, I don't feel like it happens as much with the enemy that's in play. I mean, clearly clearly you have to deal with the enemy in play, and that's an
Right,
action tax in itself.
it's because that enemy isn't massive, right?
Right. No, it is massive, right?
Is it massive? Anyway, it also matters because that enemy is not in every location, basically.
Correct. It is not going to hit every investigator during
Exactly.
the enemy phase because other people could get away if you're just going to babysit the guy,
Yeah.
or you can do damage back, right? So you can sort of accelerate the game by evading and doing damage, and then
Yeah.
let someone else do the rest of the game somewhere else. So, like to me, that's where I do feel like your investigator team matters, but the player count does matter too. Imagine playing this solo. Like one of your 3 actions every turn is trying to evade this guy. If you fail, you got to try again.
Yeah, I think in that circumstance you just rush it, right?
Take 2 horror every turn.
No, like get the locations that evade him.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah,
hope you don't draw other enemies, right?
yeah. I mean, again, it's like I think that there are ways to. I think it's a playstyle thing because I think if you do rush it, like the game gives you ways to evade him,
Yes.
and I think that yes, while those ways are somewhat random, aka you cannot be assured that you're gonna get those evades off, they do exist. Um, And so it kind of goes into the fact of what do you want to do? Keep living or push the objective, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that if anything, what that shows is that I think that different playstyles very much differ in how well the doubt version goes. Which I think leads to a bit of imbalance. It means that some playstyles aren't really supported that well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. So
Yeah.
that said, when I've played this on 3 or 4, there, because of a larger player count, you can get away with it, at least as long as you have one person who can do it, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't dominate the team composition. It's just okay, one of the 3 or 4 people needs to figure out how to deal with this, and then everyone else can do whatever they were doing.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Hmm. I don't know how to give this a rating though, because the other versions I think are totally normal. Like if you are going the
Yeah.
fight route,
Yeah.
in general, like this is more of that. It's
Correct.
just that the investigate route, you're right, you push the uh, scenario forward by investigating in the first place, and sometimes you get to evade them too. But man, there's so much other pressure on your horror.
Yeah. No, again, I think what that is leading to me to think is that the doubt run is fairly imbalanced because of that. Like it encourages team comps, specific team comps, and encourages more investigators
Yes.
than normal. More than normal. Like, scenarios are already hard for the true solo player, but in this case it's might be impossible in some circumstances.
Yeah. I think you'd really have to be able to
Uh
move around quickly
yeah.
if you're playing true solo and have high willpower, basically. If you can just take the
Yeah.
test. Man, oh, you're right, though. Like, if you get to whatever the last agenda is and you're trying to pass a 6 willpower test, like, you just can't. I don't
You,
think you
you
can.
just you just don't.
You
Yeah.
don't.
You
Yeah.
just push. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so with that in mind, I think that as you said, like the conviction one is fine. I think it's actually fine.
Hmm.
You're getting clues and you're dealing damage to an enemy. And yeah, it's really only the doubt run. It's a little bit imbalanced. So I think I'll put it. I'll weigh them together. I'll put it at a 3 total. I think.
Okay. I will say, like, talking to you about it, I feel better about the doubt run because
Hmm,
I agree that, like, you can probably tank the horror and reveal the locations that heal the horror back.
right.
And you'll probably be okay. Probably.
Until you reveal that one that you take a horror for each point you fail by.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I know that they tried to deal with that. I'm gonna give it 2.5. But I think they could have done it maybe a little bit differently, where you didn't have to take the test. Maybe if it
Yeah.
was like a free triggered ability, and it was like limit once per investigator per
Hmm.
round. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Or maybe like free triggered ability, get to spend something like take a horror. Oh God.
To do it again or something, or
Yeah, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that would
Yeah.
be even interesting with you had the hidden card that doesn't let you do it, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's just the action tax that I think gets me. It's less
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. Like I said before, the 3 or 4 fight turning into 6 is hard, but yeah. Okay, enough about this one.
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, by the way, I guess clue drop is kind of weird in that scenario too, because you don't generally have enough clues to drop because you're losing them
That
all
is
the
true.
time. However,
Oh,
on the reverse side, newspaper 2 is crazy.
newspaper 2 is crazy. Also, but importantly to note, when you never mind, I thought it said spend each investigator's clues.
Nope.
You remove them from the game.
Yeah.
God damn it. If it said spend them, you just press
Press
fast
pass.
all day
Yeah.
long.
No, no. Yeah.
But
Newspaper
yeah,
2 though does what you want.
that does work. Yes. Anyway, uh okay, if I'll start with the experience. I think so for me, the interesting gameplay loop of this scenario is the fact that there are 3 different versions. And because this scenario is built around you're basically built around all of the decisions that you've made in this entire campaign.
Hmm.
I think it really it hits it hits the mark on the doubt and conviction thing. This is the culmination of doubt and conviction and really revealing what they mean, especially in the resolutions on, was this thing even real this whole time, or this was real, we did stop him, congratulations, right?
Yeah.
um yeah, I think this one, honestly, the really only downside of this scenario is that it kind of doesn't feel like you're in Carcosa. Like, you don't get to spend a lot of time here, and so you're kind of just at the locations and they do the thing. Rather, each location, the backside of it, kind of leans more into the sort of like the 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 weird headspace stuff where you're in the theater, you're about to see Tasilda fall off. Do you want to push her or not? Um, you're not like in Carcosa, if that makes sense.
That's true. There isn't a whole. I mean, Inhabitants of Carcosa is one of the sets, but I don't actually feel like there's anyone here.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I do feel like it's a realm of madness.
Indeed, correct.
I do think that the horror, mechanically, the horror thing is very cool about
Yes.
remaining sanity and whatnot. And the campaign has been building up towards this idea of, do you have remaining sanity? How much of it left? And now there's a big payoff. Um, hmm. So as far as the gameplay loop going around and removing clues and flipping locations, this is new. We haven't seen this before.
Hmm.
By the way, we didn't talk about deciphered reality, but all the revealed locations lets you do some interesting things. That's cool.
Yeah, that is true.
Um, I think it establishes the fiction okay. Like I said, I feel like I'm in the realm of madness. I feel like I'm learning more about the Pallid Mask and who the stranger was, and it ties a nice bow on this campaign.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that ultimately its only real failing is that it does like it doesn't feel like you're in Carcosa. As I
Do you
said
wish
before,
there were two scenarios in Carcosa?
I think that would be interesting. Like, I don't know what scenario they would cut. Maybe Echoes of the Past.
Yeah, move it all up
But
one, right?
exactly. Um, but yeah, I think they could have spent more time. I don't know a lot about the lore of Carcosa, to be honest, but I feel like there's so much in here that they could have done. Um, it is a little unfortunate that they only could get one scenario out of it, I guess. Yeah.
I think it's tough for the scenario to jam too much into it,
Yeah.
especially finale. We've seen it
Yeah.
in some future campaigns where they have like part one and then part two, where you wipe the map and put some new locations or even a new encounter deck out. And uh, sometimes I feel like I don't get much out of that shift,
Yeah.
and I prefer that it's kind of focused as the here's what's happening in the scenario, and I feel like the scenario does it well.
Yep, that's true. All right. So I think I'm gonna give it a 4 for experience. What do
I,
you think?
I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I really like the horror thing. That's just it's memorable, of course.
Yeah.
It encourages some great stories, some interesting gameplay. Um, Before we talk about the Return 2, I will just say I think the Return 2 fixes some of the issues you're talking about. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not
Sure.
about the being in Carcosa as much as like it gives you a little bit extra, I think.
Yes, I agree.
But I think it's good. I think it's one I'm looking forward to. It's not just because I'm thinking about what to deal with, how to deal with the Aster throughout the whole campaign, but it's one where I really want to play the way that this scenario says, here's how to play this scenario.
Hmm. That is true.
And it's different from everything else that we've seen. Yeah, good experience. And I'm sure everyone remembers when you first read, you take direct horror equal to half your sanity rounded up, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then later you think about, how can I twist this to be even more interesting? Play Carolyn, play Calvin, Agnes, right? Do some interesting stuff.
Yep. Totally. It's a really, really unique thing that the scenario has.
Okay, at the end of our Dunwich review, List of Lost in Time and Space, we talked a little bit about the campaign as a whole.
Hmm.
Um, I think we can do that before we run to the Return to. I think that's about when we did it before.
Yeah.
This is generally people's one of the more most well-regarded campaigns of the game. Some of it, it's a little bit of nostalgia. It's been out for, oh gosh, what, 5 years now? More than that?
Yeah. 4 or 5 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it was the first campaign after Dunwich Legacy, which had some of the "this is our first campaign ever" uh, bits to it. So they
Yeah.
knew what the reaction was to that campaign, or at least they had some idea while they were developing this, and they hit it out of the park. I think they did a really good job of creating a unique experience and showing what a campaign can be.
Yeah. I think that like what speaks highly of this campaign is that, with maybe one exception, I wouldn't call any of these scenarios like bad or okay. I think that like it, once again, with one exception. I think that all of these scenarios are like at least good, and some of them are excellent. Like some of them are some of the best scenarios that, or some of my favorite scenarios, I should say. Um, Notably, Pallid Mask, I love. Unspeakable Oath is awesome. I love The Last King, for example. And I think that it has become kind of like a template for future scenarios where you have, for example, The Last King, where the results of that scenario interact with every single following scenario. Um, you have the doubt and conviction and chasing the stranger mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
where all three of them are tracked throughout the entire campaign and matter at the very end. This is something that Forgotten Age, Circle Undone, and Innsmouth all do. And so, like, I think that this one, like, Dunwich was a campaign where that established this game as like, this is what we can do, and this is what the game is. And Carcosa was able to like elevate the game to, like, in the same way that Lost in Time and Space elevated
Yes.
Dunwich Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
This campaign elevates the entirety of the game, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It really has a number of scenarios that lend themselves very well to telling stories within the
Yeah.
gameplay, but also with the narrative they're trying to tell you. The fact that you are, have some meta interaction with the game, saying
Yeah.
Haster, right? Uh, I think that's incredible job. I think there was an incredible job that they did to pull off an 8 scenario campaign that was this cohesive as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes Dunwich was unfocused. I mean, the Where Doom Awaits encounter deck being so enormous with a bunch of just everything, right?
Yeah.
An omelet with everything in it, basically. This campaign, while I do think it has this like willpower and horror theme to it in terms of the mechanics, um, as far as the balance goes, I think that you can still bring pretty much any team and do very well. You just have to
Yeah.
maybe add a few extra cards here and there to deal with um, those elements. So it feels somewhat open and generic as far as like how you need to prepare for it compared to a lot of the future campaigns. I think really can hit you over the head with particular skill tests or particular um, mechanics that it's like either you have it or you don't. I don't think this campaign feels that way, despite some of my misgivings about one one path in this last one. Um, that's that makes it a great campaign. It makes it enjoyable for everyone. There's not a lot of feel bad moments. Even the Asylum ending, maybe it's a feel bad moment. I'm not sure, but for your first run through. But I read people talking about this like every day on the subreddit.
Yeah.
What happens if we
Yeah.
all died in the Asylum, right? And they're willing to press on, which means that the campaign couldn't have been, too unenjoyable or making it not fun to die, right? There could be missteps in the future. We'll get to them, but like, I don't think there's anywhere here where you feel like if you died, the game was just out for you.
Yep. Agreed.
What are your other thoughts on the campaign as a whole?
I mean, I think I've said most of what I said. I think that, as you said, this campaign feels like it's not one of the last, but like, this campaign compared to the two that followed feels like it's the most balanced of the ones that have come out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking notably about Forgotten Age and Circle and Done, where it can feel a little unbalanced. Those campaigns in particular. Um, as you said, this one, like, you can, there's a lot of freedom and there's a lot of player agency because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really feels like you are making the decisions. Like, most of the time, the doubt and conviction is being tracked not by what has happened in the scenario, but by, the actual choose your own adventure type decisions that you actually make. And so it basically is like, a lot of times when, if you replay the scenario, you're often asked like, are you going doubt or conviction? And the answer, like, because you can answer that, is really good, as opposed to like, Forgotten Age, like, oh, are you going Ichitaka? We're like, well, I hope so. Right, right. It's the same thing with Circle of Dead. I just realized.
It's
So
true. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say like they've never equaled Carcosa. Like I do feel like every campaign is going to be offering something new and unique, and hopefully they appeal to everyone. And
yeah.
I know that they don't always. People, rank the campaigns all the time. But if you didn't like this campaign, try it again.
Good point.
That's all I would say. It's like maybe something bad happened, but if there was something that was just you didn't enjoy your time, it's possible the game had it out for you. The game can, right? You can draw 3 auto
Yep.
fails in a row. I've seen it happen plenty of times. But try it again. Like I even with the same investigators, like I just don't think that there's too much that you can do poorly here. The other campaigns, I can see why it might rub you the wrong way.
Yeah.
I guess that's about it. It's a fantastic campaign. I do like a lot of campaigns that they've released recently too, so I'm not just sitting here saying the old ones were the best. I don't want people to think that, but
Yep. When we get to those campaigns, we will express our opinions.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you as always, Superfeng, for being with me, and I look forward to talking to you about the future campaigns because there is a lot to mention. The Forgotten Age coming up
Absolutely.
next too. However,
this was
we're not done yet. We will talk
correct.
very shortly about the Return 2 of Dim Carcosa. But in case you're not going to stay with us for that section, any last thoughts or final words?
No, yep. I think you nailed it on the head. One of the best out there, and glad it exists.
Agreed. Alrighty, so the Return 2 adds a couple of things. Locations are all the same except for this middle one here.
Correct.
And the difference is there's only 2 clues here, and I wonder if part of that has to do with the cultists that spawn.
Oh, good point.
That they don't end up in the middle.
Yep.
Lower Shroud too, I think.
Correct. Yes. It does have an important change. Previously, it cannot be flipped over unless Aster has 5 or more damage on him. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
This one cannot be flipped over unless he has 2 per remaining health.
Correct.
Which is different. Also, there is text on the back of this card. That's right. So, Aster's health cannot be reduced to less than 2 per unless an investigator knows the secret. So,
how do you know the secret? Do you flip over this
good
card
question.
again?
Yeah. Sorry, let me just double check. Can it be flipped over while Aster has more than 2 per remaining health?
Right.
More than. And this is can it be reduced to less than?
So you have to get to.
So you have to have exactly 2 per.
Right. You get to 2 per, and then you go do this.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this is not the secret. Where is it? Okay. So depending on which version of Haster you get a new location in play. And also, well, something can happen because you can move him there, but we'll see. All right, so let's do it one at a time. So King in Yellow, aka the Doubt version.
Yes.
You put the recesses of your own mind location into play.
I love the title.
This is so cool. Question mark, traded. While you're at the resources of your own mind, set the base value of your willpower to 0. Calvin is still good with that.
Mm-hmm. Good luck doing the evade, though, for everyone else.
Jesus Christ. Each investigator resource of your own mind is considered to be at a different copy of recesses of your own mind for the purposes of player card effects and committing cards to each other's skill tests.
That is so cool. I love it.
Yeah, that is so cool.
It's your own mind. It's not someone else's mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is awesome.
Maybe the extra clues are on these locations, basically from the Palace of the King.
Yes. Yeah, the 1 per and then the 2 per over here.
A few extra, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So get these clues and then flip it over.
Yes. So you know the secret now.
Yay.
Ta-da. And I love. Okay, so I mean, we'll get to this when we get to it. But basically, each one of these has a different reason why you know the secret now,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I said before. It's like it's all the same. But anyway, um, yeah. So basically, this one is the secret is that you made it up.
You
Yeah,
are the
this is the
author.
doubt version. It's so good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Fantastic.
Next, Lord of Carcosa. This is the conviction route.
Ooh, let me put that
Pastor
mark.
is. Oh yeah. Pastor is moved here when this location is put into play. In addition,
Yes.
Pastor cannot leave the throne room. Pastor cannot be exhausted, but Pastor cannot make attacks of opportunity. That's pretty nice. So it's kind of just a little last stand. This guy will have 2 per health at this point, but you need to get these 2 per clues while this guy is here,
Mm-hmm.
in order to finish off the scenario. And you will you discover that the king and the throne are one and the same, and that is the secret.
So basically, you get the clues, then you just do the damage.
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah. And lastly, we have the Tattered King, aka you did not have enough doubt or conviction. Um, the stage of the Ward Theater comes into
Yes.
play.
I love it.
God, this is so cool. I don't think Hasser has moved here. No, he's not.
Mm-mm.
He stays where he is. While Hasser is moving, if there is an investigator at the stage of the Ward Theater, Hasser's location is considered to be connected. So he will move here and hunt if someone is here. And while you're here, you can't attack Hasser. Because I guess you're doing the play with him, so it's not nice to the audience. Yeah, and the secret is that you are currently enacting a play right now, and yeah.
I wonder if, like, I was always thought that this is something to do with the Beast of Aldebaran as well.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe not, but it just kind of felt like that's where the stage was that, he dropped on
Oh
in
yeah,
the first
that's true.
scenario. But
Yeah,
it's cool.
yeah.
My favorite one
Maybe
is
you're
my favorite one's the Raceless You're in Mind, though. That one's so
for
cool.
sure. Yeah, maybe you were Big Butt Baby all along.
Are the shrouds the same?
No,
No.
oh, this is tough.
No. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
All right. This is a good change. I like it.
Yes. Yeah, it adds a lot thematically. I think that's a huge boon of it. And it makes it a scenario more interesting. Obviously, I mean, you know which one's going to appear.
Mm-hmm.
But it adds so much flavor.
And it extends the scenario just a little bit, not too much, just enough to
Yep.
make it a little bit more challenging as well.
Yep. Also, it removes a small play pattern that you could technically get into in the previous scenario, which is you dump all the damage you need on Haster, and then you know the secret to instantly kill him.
Mm,
In this scenario, you cannot do that because he cannot go below 2 per health until you know the secret.
you're right. Okay. Yeah. That's good. Good change.
Yep. Good change.
Other new card.
Toot toot.
Just one. Just one
Just
of these
one.
guys.
6 fight though. Jesus. Yeah, and when he attacks you, if you are possessed, goodbye.
That's it. Okay,
Yep.
so he's a hunter, so you can't just, have him sit around, but he can engage you and he doesn't do any damage or horror, so until you draw a copy of possession, you're fine.
Yeah, just if you have this guy walking around with you in your threat area, just don't forget that he technically is attacking you every time you walk around.
That's right. So you could, I think this did happen to me. I walked around with him a little bit and then I drew possession and then I was like, hey, would someone like to come take this guy off of me? Please.
Please.
I do like that
Yeah.
he's got prey most cards in hand, so
Yeah.
he will go follow whoever probably has a hidden card.
Yeah.
However, it would be nice if it also said, like, I don't know, most cards in hand only, or I don't know, something like that, where
Right.
you couldn't just pick him up if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's a cool card. I don't think it changes a whole lot other than just like you pay attention to it, but
Yeah.
We have a few other return to cards that we haven't seen in a little while, like
Hmm.
these, which we haven't seen at all since scenario 1.
I guess so. Yeah.
Uh, I think this is probably easier than Rotting Remains because you don't take as much horror.
Yeah, I agree.
However, that
And
does make sense for a card that we're going to come up to in a second.
true.
Melancholy. More resource cost hate, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And then this one, boo.
Yeah, you don't want to be able to ward the card you want.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep. It is a tarot card, so like just like the other ones, you could get rid of it with logical reasoning, which is already awesome in this scenario.
Correct.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, it's the baby.
I think
Would you
this
like to
one,
die twice as fast?
this is just, I don't know. I mean, this is really hard because I mean, yes, you can advance the agendas and acts, but there's quite a bit of doom on each one, right? 7, 7, 9. Well, that's the last one. And
And
then,
also the acts, like these two go by very fast.
right,
So you're
and then,
basically always here.
yeah, the last one is just always in play. So
Yep.
this is bad. And if you draw
Yep.
2, then one of them's sitting there forever, of course. Um, but the fact that it's each time you take one or more horror, and I'm sure I talked about this last time it showed up in, I don't know which scenario it was, scenario 5?
Hmm.
Anyway, you take additional horror. This one, like the token does it, the cultist
Oh
token.
God. Yeah. Yeah, that's bad.
You also get it from the visions in your mind, an
Yes.
extra direct horror.
Yep.
And then, of course, every time you get hit by Haster.
Oh yeah. That's 3 horror, baby.
Or 4.
5.
5. 5.
Jesus. Yeah.
So, I mean, this card is awful and I wish it never existed, but it's what turns the pressure up in this scenario. It's absolutely insane.
Yep.
Um, Praying Byaki, whatever, we've seen him before. I mean, again, like you're always going to be swapping the fight and evade values, but okay. I
Yeah,
guess
it is worse as well because there is one encounter deck shuffle in here, so this guy might come back.
that's true. Not having a victory point means that it's a legit threat.
Yeah.
Um, the visions in your mind, I think, are as bad as they are on the other ones. Tough.
Yeah. Especially the direct damage, I
Yep.
think.
Not being able to
Yeah.
soak is very hard.
Yeah.
Healing, I think, is good in this scenario, and you need to heal the damage now too.
Yep.
Hey, here's another horror to take 2 of.
Yeah.
Is this worse than the lose in action?
That's a good question. I mean, with the baby out, I think, but I don't know.
Hmm.
If you have a hidden card, that is also more likely, I think.
It's more
Having a
likely
hidden card.
because you can't get rid of these in any predictable manner, I think. Well, I mean,
And drawing possession, I think, as well.
and the possessions, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's this one. I don't think there's any other changes. Am I right?
Nope. I believe that's it.
Okay. I mean, I like the changes they made to the scenario. I am not sure about the encountered sets.
Yeah, I think the encounter sets definitely made it harder. But I think that these changes of locations made it more flavorful, if anything. So it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, people don't think very highly of the Return to Path to Carcosa set in general, just because it doesn't make a huge difference, and the ways that it does make a difference are kind of annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like Dunwich Return to legitimately fixes some things, so that's good. Forgotten Age, I mean, we'll get to Forgotten Age, but Forgotten Age Return to definitely changes things a lot. And Circle Undone Return to, while I don't think Circle Undone has a big impact. It does introduce the tarot cards, so I think that's also big with it.
I love the tarot cards.
They are cool. Yeah, you can also get rid of the prologue scenario. Officially, I'm sure that people were doing that unofficially anyway.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of which, if you have not checked out already, Superfeng99 is playing through Return to Circle Undone on your channel, right? At this point, maybe you are at like scenario 3 or 4. I'm not sure, but
I think so. That sounds about right.
if
Yep.
you want to see Daisy and Leo kill some ghosts. That's
Yep.
probably what's going to happen very soon. So check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I guess that's a wrap on Carcosa. Thank you
I
for
think
sticking
so.
with us. This is like fairly long videos and discussions, but we try to be thorough, and maybe that's helpful. Maybe that's just like something you're watching while you're trying to fall asleep at night. I don't know. But we've enjoyed it. We've had a good time. I've really enjoyed talking about these scenarios with you, Superfeng99, as well.
Ditto. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, we'll all see you in the next one.
Bye bye.